Presbyterian Universalist congregation of South County. We are an open and welcoming congregation comprised of people from different backgrounds and faiths. We're glad that you're here today. My name is Sue Straykosh, and I'll be your worship associate for today. Michael has an announcement.
Thanks, Sue. This year for Christmas Eve, we'll be registering all attendees in advance to make sure that we don't overcrowd the sanctuary. So starting today after service, if you'd like to register for Christmas Eve, we have two services, one at 6 o'clock, which requires vaccination, and one at 7:30 p.m., which does not. Come up to the front after service to sign up. Thanks.
We ask that you take this time as a respite from your daily lives and turn off all cell phones or other things that make noise. And I just want to point out the exits for anybody that may be unfamiliar. There's an exit behind me that has some stairs going down. Okay. There's an exit you came in over here. Then there's an exit in the back to the left. We don't have a coffee hour right now because of COVID and the pandemic, but we, welcome to stick around and greet each other at the end of the service. And if anyone is new to the congregation and wishes to introduce themselves, we invite you to stand now and say your name, where you're from, anything else you'd like to say. All right, so we'll meet you after. Okay, and okay. For the opening words today, we as UUs, Unitarian Universalists, embrace and celebrate many different holidays and traditions. Just since returning to services in person in September, we started with our water communion and then learned about Native American traditions, Hindi festival of light called Diwali, the Mexican Day of the Dead, Buddhism, and we look forward to December, where it's Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, winter solstice, and our own Christmas Eve, the highlight of our year, I think. Right? Okay, well today we'll get introduced to another one. And today's opening words are in the Gray Hymnal, number 557, and it's called Common Destiny by David H. Eaton. All living substance, all substance of energy, being, and purpose are united and share the same destiny. All people, those we love, and those we know not of, are united and share the same destiny. Birth to death, we share the unity with the sun, earth, our brothers and sisters, strangers, flowers of the field, snowflakes, volcanoes, and moonbeams. Birth, life, death, unknown, known, unknown, our destiny from unknown to unknown. May we have the faith to accept the mystery and build upon its everlasting truth. And now I'll light our chalice. May the light of this chalice remind us of the light and love within each of us. May we share this light with all sentient beings. And now I ask you to join me and rise up if you're able. and recite our covenant, which is printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. You may be seated.
And now we'll sing 2 hymns. We'll do the first hymn, Morning Has Come, followed by Nothing But Peace Is Enough.
The choir is singing, the congregation is now,
Or not singing.
or not singing, following along. This congregation is sustained solely by your gifts and, our members and our friends. So the offering will now be given and received. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your generosity, and we'll use these gifts wisely and well. Today we have a guest speaker whose name is Eli Nixon. Eli builds portals and gives guided tours to places that don't yet exist. Eli's a settler, descendant, trans-queer clown, a cardboard constructionist, and a master, excuse me, my glasses are fogging, I can't read. A maker of plays, puppets, pagans, parades, suitcase theaters, and low-tech public spectacular. Eli contributes to activities at schools, mental health and recovery centers, libraries, and the more than human world to explain imaginative capacity. Eli's a Rhode Islander living in Narragansett and grew up in South County and now lives in Pawtucket. Eli parents a 12-year-old human and supports local and planetary movements for abolition, reparations, and multi-species justice. We welcome Eli Nixon.
Thank you. Hi everybody. I'm going to set a timer because I'm not great at time management. So I've got 15 minutes to speak with you, and I'm going to set the alarm for 10, and so then I know that I have only 5 minutes to get in anything else. Thank you so much for having me here today. Can you all understand me okay? Great. Just tell me to speak up if you can't. I'm really honored to be here. My name is Eli, and I am the offspring of my folks, Penny Hall and Guy Latour. Honored to be amidst all of you, along with my childhood music teacher, Mrs. Gersony, and my own kid, Ida, who's here and helped with a bunch of the prep for my sermon. I've never given a sermon before. I haven't even really listened to a lot of sermons before. So I realize this may not be the customary sermon you might be ready to hear on a Sunday, but I think because you're Unitarians, you're pretty loose and fast with customs, and maybe you're more open than the average person to inventing some new customs and new traditions, which I'm feeling a real need for in these days. I also can't breathe and talk and wear a mask at the same time, so I might just have to pause occasionally. Okay, I will admit from the get-go that I'm pretty new at talking about what I'm putting out there, and so if it's a little disorganized, it's not you that's having a hard time following what's going on. I'm trying to figure out the best way to layer in different information at which time, and I may have not nailed it yet, but let me know after anything else you want to know. I'm glad to talk to you about and clarify. So I am a Rhode Islander. There's some maybe typo confusion. I am a Rhode Islander living in Pawtucket. I grew up in South County, and we're all on Narragansett land. So that's what we're trying to gesture to. This is the land of the Narragansett, the traditional lands of the Wampanoag and the Nipmuc, and a whole bunch of groups of people that are still here and still fighting for their sovereignty. And part of the reason that I got fired up about the idea of proposing a new holiday is that I was really struggling with a lot of our current holidays and feeling not so satisfied with a lot of them. And in fact, like I actively needed to disinvest from some of them / figure out a way to work with my family to transform them to actually be something I felt good about celebrating and not just sort of caught in the past because this is what we would always do. We're going to do it again, even though we have new information, new knowledge, perhaps different politics than our ancestors, a whole bunch of things. And a holiday to me, this is where I'll start reading some of what I wrote. There's no scarcity of holidays and no question about our ability to fill up all 365 days with more of them. This holiday really comes out of an abundance mindset that we don't just need the, 12, 15 holidays that might be on the customary school lunch menu holiday schedule. So this holiday grapples with the fact that the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council proclaimed the third Wednesday in July is National Hot Dog Day. The birth of a baby over 2,000 years ago determines when many Americans get time off from work or get paid double to smile at panicked shoppers. Hallmark and pharmacies decide when romantic love shall be celebrated with chalky hearts, paper doilies, and embossed cursive declarations. But all of this isn't for no good reason. People chug green beer, dress up as sexy ladybugs, and buy soap for our moms, all because we want to celebrate our holidays. We want special days that bring us together in joy and commemoration, days that help us hold grief together, days that help us mark seasons. We need to feel our own connections to each other and to these places where we are, to feel that we're part of a larger whole. What a cool thing that humans have invented holidays. Holidays themselves, I don't think, are the problem. It's sort of the crusty, expired, sour residue of a lot of holidays that are the problem. And that doesn't mean, this is where I have experienced a fair amount of resistance from people who love their holidays and are suddenly get that like grasping feeling that someone's trying to take something that they love. And I think this is where I'm sort of trying to push my own self and my own family to think about the things we actually love about those holidays and how do we leverage that love to actually stand for the values that we also believe in, as opposed to having them rest atop mythology that actually isn't what we're gathering around, I think, many of us anymore. So this is where I came up with the fact that maybe beyond just transforming some of our existing holidays, maybe we just need a whole new one. And I realize this is an absurd thing for one lonely weirdo to propose out of the depths of COVID isolation, given that holidays often come from whole generations of people and government declarations and post office closures and all of that. And who am I? Just some weird cardboard enthusiast who thinks that we need a new holiday. But I think I'm not wrong. And I also think that the ways in which I've not been alone proposing this holiday over the last 5 years, this thing started as a play about horseshoe crabs, and then it was clear that the play couldn't hold the magnitude of horseshoe crabs, and it needed to become a holiday. And so that's where I'm at now. And by holiday, I think I'm trying to stretch us and sort of combine the British holiday, like vacation, with holiday, like the bank is closed here, and put them together into a new kind of time that is holiday, that is able to hold before and next and meanwhile. That's what I'm hoping about this holiday, is that it can take those at least 3 simultaneous threads of time and be able to hold them inside the strong and mighty carapace of a horseshoe crab. And that's maybe where I get into my visual aids. I'm a puppeteer. I couldn't give a sermon without visual aids. So I started with just a new holiday because the name of the holiday currently, oops. Oh, I might need some Vanna White help. You're busy, but Guy is a perfect Vanna White. You can just put that down anywhere. So, sorry, prop work needs some work. So this is the new holiday. Oh, I'll use this, sorry. Blood Tide. And the reason it's not totally gross is because it's got 2 horseshoe crabs instead of the O's. So hopefully you don't immediately go into a vampire spiral. But Johnny cautioned me that I should hold out on the name of the holiday for a little while till people really sunk into the horseshoe crabs. But I don't know how to talk about it without saying the name. So I'm just going to trust that you can hold off on your judgments about a holiday named Blood Tide before you've really grappled with why. And thank you, Guy. You can take that one. Okay, so no, you can put it down too. There's nothing else interesting that's going to happen to that. These are fast and loose props. And then the next thing I want to talk about is homage, because the full title of this holiday is called A New Holiday in Homage to Horseshoe Crabs. And homaging isn't something most of us modern humans do with a lot of designation. So I'm working on this definition of homage, which is, it's a verb, transitive and obsolete, to pay respect by external action, thank you Guy, such as honoring ancestors, also an artistic work imitating another in a flattering style. So I think many of us actually are homaging things frequently when we, dress up as somebody we honor, or we light candles for ancestors or anything. This attempts to create a framework, which I lacked as a kid growing up for thinking about ancestors. We didn't really talk about ancestors much. And so certainly we didn't talk about more than human ancestors, which is part of the way that I'm thinking of horseshoe crabs is who was here before all of us and helped get us here. Horseshoe crabs, this is the part where it gets really exciting. Before I get into the nuts and bolts of horseshoe crabs, this is where we just try and oh no, okay, good. This is good because I'm really just getting started. We're gonna fly through this next part, which is, I guess this is the most important thing. What is this holiday's vibe? Yeah, it's not a holiday about buying anything. It's not a holiday about apologizing necessarily. It's not a holiday about repenting or building. It's a holiday about actually just standing in awe of 450 million years and our ability to embrace something that's been here for 450 million years and the last 500 years at the same time. So it grapples with enmeshment, where there's an us and a them, and it looks to the we in the center, where we are connected. It grapples with this question. It's propelled by really 3 questions. What time is it on the clock of the world? Grace Lee Boggs' quote. Thinking about that and extinction, horseshoe crabs, there's 90% less horseshoe crabs now in the world than there were in the 1990s. They've been used as fertilizer since the 1800s. Currently, we use them, any of us who are delighted to be vaccinated, which hopefully is everyone, is here because of the blood of the horseshoe crab. Currently, all vaccines, all surgical equipment, anyone who's got a fake knee or a pacemaker or has been in the hospital in the last 25 years has benefited from the blood of the horseshoe crab. We extract a compound from its blood which we use to test all of our equipment for sterility. Whether this is actually necessary, that's one of those questions, depending on who you ask. Litigiously, the hospitals don't want to get sued, so yes, but we could also be using synthetics, we could be using armyworm blood, we used to use rabbits, really complicated. But there's blood over all of that, which we can get into more. This part of the question, where does it hurt? By Ruby Sales. And in looking at the timeline of the last 450 million years and the last 500 years, I would say it hurts the most as far as I can see in the last 500. So if we're responding to what Ruby Sales is asking about, I think that's part of where we put our lens while not blocking out the last 450 at the same time. And then this is the question that gets me going into this holiday from choreographer Deborah Hay. What if where I am is what I need? And that is a question, I think, that leads us to thinking about where are we, which gets to this quote about what I hope the holiday is addressing a little bit, which is from the Indigenous Solidarity Network's Toolkit for Rethinking Thanksgiving. And it says, European settlers were and are required to give up our cultural identities in exchange for whiteness and its privileges. It can be helpful for white people to reconnect with their ethnic lineages and ancestry where so much healing can be found. But this must be done in the context of accountability and reparations to Indigenous people. And so this holiday works to raise funds and awareness around Black and Indigenous-led land projects by having a series of lots of activities that you can do while you're practicing the holiday, and I've written a manual to support anyone's engagement in it. It involves, this is where I need you to hold this, and this is where I need you, Mom. Cardboard transformation. So it starts with cardboard transformation, and then part of what it's trying to grapple with is this. This is where I need some more audience participation. So here, oh, this is where I need this, I think. Great. So, Mom, you need to walk back there. That's 450 million years ago. Now, the next, hey, stop, Mom, stop, 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 stop. Hey, Mom. Come back this way a little bit. So I only did it because, I was trying to not be very ambitious. I only did 20 feet. So 20 feet at 450 million years means that I'm here when humans arrived. And here, Guy, you hold this. We can let this down. Sorry, we need to work on our prop work. But check it out. So this is, we're wrapping up, don't worry. This is where, do you mind holding this for a second? This is birds. You go right here. You want to stand right there? This is you, you're humans. This, you can stand right here, and that's tree-like plants. Could you stand next to that green thing? And then you're close enough. Flowers, sharks, all right here, sort of. Yeah, so flowers. So check it out. I mean, if that's not helpful, I think, in terms of feeling like whatever we've created in the last 500 years has got to be shiftable, changeable, morphable through our actions. Because look, we just got here. Humans have been here less than 1 million years. So one of the cool things we can do in this holiday is build out of materials that were not here when we came. So horseshoe crabs were here before land plants, and yet, because of the wonders of this holiday / cardboard, you can build an organism that was here before land plants, out of land plants, and then wear it on your fleshy new human body. You're transcending time. You are bending through 450 million years. I find that helpful in terms of dismantling racism, in terms of grappling with colonization. This organism is exactly, more or less, the same organism that has been here since 450 million years ago and is still here. 99% of all other organisms in the entire world have gone extinct in the time that horseshoe crabs have continued. I'm not saying that quite right. 99% of other species that were existing when horseshoe crabs were here are now gone. That's a better way to put it. Great, thank you for your help. You can sit down, you can just lay that down on the floor. Thank you to our volunteers, very helpful. So we're just wrapping up here. There's a lot I didn't tell you about horseshoe crabs, clearly. Thank you for your support. Yeah, there's a lot I didn't tell you about horseshoe crabs, and there's a lot that I'd love to tell you more about them. But mostly what I hope that you take away from this is that we have the power to create holidays whenever we need them. If you're wondering about Blood Tide and when it is and how often and whatever, it's a floating holiday. You use it when you need it. The last thing I'll say about it is this holiday an actual day off? So wait, hold on. This is not a proposal for a holiday instead of action on other fronts. It's an addition to a way to build relationships, connection, and momentum. A way to put attention on a thing and build energy around it. Personally, I would rather put my attention on horseshoe crabs than on presidents and nationalism. Wouldn't you? Blood Tide is a floating holiday. That means its date, duration, and frequency are up to its commemorators. You can celebrate Blood Tide in place of existing holidays that reinscribe harm and valorize violence, like the 4th of July, like Thanksgiving, like President's Day. You could use it in every one of those if you want to. It's never depleted. Horseshoe crabs are here whenever you need them. You can use it anytime individuals and publics need reminding that we are in charge of when and how we make meaning, whose lives are worth memorializing, and what new primordial civic culture we can lift up from the silt. I have a lot more to say, but I think that's my time. I have postcards here. If you'd like to learn more about the holiday, I'm delighted to tell you and give you a postcard. It feels weird to just cut you off before I've really said all about it, but I think that's all I got time for, right? Am I forgetting anything essential? Well, God, yes, there's one other thing I have to talk about, and then I'll really get out of here. The question of why horseshoe crabs is part of the reason of the need for this holiday, because when we ask, I've talked about this holiday with a lot of people now, and when people ask, but why horseshoe crabs? Within that, I think there's this complicated question going on that is, what do they do for us? And what I'm trying to point to in this holiday is that same desire to pinpoint what something does for us as being the reason we protect it, or the reason we value it, or the reason that we build conditions for its care and health, is the same pattern of extraction and othering and lessering than that has enabled chattel slavery, the genocide of indigenous people, and ongoing climate collapse because we feel as though we're separate from this other organism. And that's not to say that I'm not grateful for the vaccine. The holiday is not a simple one. But within the gratitude for the vaccine, I think there's also the necessity to see that tendency that humans have to separate ourselves from other organisms and assume that our care needs to be prioritized above other life forms, instead of seeing that those things are actually, one can't exist without the other. So I guess that's where I'll end, and I'd love to talk to anyone more about it. I realize this is just a sampling. Thank you, and may you invent your own holidays to solve whatever's getting you down about your current holidays. Oh yeah, I wrote a book, but this is not a book talk. So if you want to know more about the book, come get a postcard from me, and then you can learn about the book. But I'm also just glad to talk to you about it as a concept. I should say that the holiday, if you're still not sure about horseshoe crabs and you're like, I don't know, perhaps some of the things that will be compelling to you about it are there's opportunities to parade, to make a pageant, to make contributions to reparation and land return. 15% of the sales of my book go to New World Healing Center, which is an amazing effort that is happening on the coast of Rhode Island to try and create a space for Black and Indigenous people for healing and art, and they're trying to buy land So this effort is trying to raise money for that. There's also feasting, which means you build a detritivore board pie out of whatever you can find in your house. It's about scavenging. There's habitat restoration with the accompanying tick check. Ticks are horseshoe crab's closest living relative, coming back to get the blood of their cousin, which we're taking. It's a grand circle and maybe makes you feel a little less anxious about ticks when it feels like they're a consequence instead of a nuisance. Anyway, then you can talk about time encapsulation, where there's all sorts of tips for building time capsules for different periods. Karaoke is my favorite practice, and you all would be a wonderful group for that. That is altered lyrics to power ballads and love songs, but changed to be from the perspective of horseshoe crabs. There are copyright concerns about doing it here, but just hold on, karaoke will be sweeping the nation momentarily. And then there's impossible dancing, which is all about revering the impossible. 450 friggin' million years. Red knots who depend on horseshoe crab eggs for their survival. That's 9,000-mile migration that they make. So it's about revering the impossible and hoping to see what is possible by revering the impossible. And the last one is onwarding, which is where I'll really end, which is what happens when the holiday hits the rest of the humans and they make it whatever it becomes. Thank you so much for hearing me out. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your beautiful music. Thanks a lot. Happy blood time. Yeah, you're Thanks for your support.
Our closing words were going to come from a poem that Johnette sent around at Thanksgiving time, which was a Thanksgiving poem, which was really cute. But she managed to find a poem about horseshoe crabs.
Yay!
Okay? And I think this is an ode to a horseshoe crab. It's written by Joel Duran on Cumberland Island in 2003, and it goes like this. The tired autumn light falls like rust upon the motionless eyes. The same eyes that have gathered the sunlight for 250 million years. Your history can be measured by the stars. Red giants born, burned up and blown into stellar ashes. Mountains lifted, worn away to the roots, and raised again. Yet your eyes remained. Moving as the waves do, rushing up the rubble of long-ago mountains, not to reshape, but to recreate the shape that has existed since the waves down their shore. Blood, pure, cold, and blue as the seas of your birth, flows in your eyes so that we can see purity. Time is a stranger that passes by unnoticed. It stops, stands silent, meaningless, to your eyes. I never remember the words. We now extinguish this chalice, but not its light, that we take with us into the world, sharing it with those we encounter on the journey. We'll now sing our closing song, or mouth it, or sing it in your head.